promoting dialogue.
It is midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM. First, our top stories. Zimbabwe's President Mnangagwa arrives in Ghana for a 3-day state visit to strengthen trade and diplomatic cooperation. Citizens and civil society in the Gambia react as authorities rearrest acquitted murder suspects.
They have no powers to overturn court verdict.
To me, it is a test of justice system's integrity.
The state, which is supposed to respect the court, can trample upon your rights with impunity.
Benin finalizes voter registration updates for completion of electoral lists ahead of April 12 presidential polls, and anti-money laundering agency GIABA says Africa loses over $50 billion annually to illicit financial flows.
This staggering figure that we're calling an increase from 50 billion to about 88 billion approximately have great negative consequences on the development of Africa.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Deborah Amour.
Thank you for joining us. We begin in Ghana, where Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa is expected to arrive this afternoon for a 3-day state visit. He will be welcomed at the Accra International Airport by President John Dramani Mahama at 3 p.m. GMT. The visit aims to strengthen bilateral ties and unlock opportunities for economic collaboration between the countries. Talks between the two leaders are expected to focus on expanding trade, boosting agricultural collaboration, and creating jobs while reinforcing broader African diplomatic cooperation. WADL's Nadede Tete gives us the details.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa is scheduled to arrive in Accra on Wednesday afternoon, where he will be accorded full state honors at the Accra International Airport, including a guard of honor and a ceremonial 21-gun salute. A state banquet will be hosted later in the day by President Mahama, setting the tone for engagement intended to reaffirm the long-standing relationship between Ghana and Zimbabwe. Central to the visit will be official engagements at the Pedrasi Lodge, where both leaders will first hold a private meeting before leading their delegations into broader discussions. These engagements are expected to translate political goodwill into concrete partnership across key sectors. Officials say the talks will explore collaboration in areas such as economic exchange, tourism development, public health systems, sanitation infrastructure, agricultural productivity, and governance reforms, particularly in anti-corruption efforts. Several memoranda of understanding are expected to be signed following discussions, signaling a commitment to deepen institutional cooperation and drive implementation in priority sectors. Beyond the formal talks, President Mnangagwa's itinerary includes site visits to strategic facilities in Accra. These include the Sweden-Ghana Medical Center and the Accra Compost Recycling Plant, where he will be briefed on Ghana's approaches to healthcare delivery and sustainable waste management. The Zimbabwean leader will also visit the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park to honor Ghana's founding president in a symbolic gesture reflecting shared historical and Pan-African ties. President Mnangagwa is expected to conclude his visit on Friday, April 3, with departure honors at the Jubilee Lounge. The visit is expected to consolidate diplomatic relations while advancing practical cooperation aligned with both countries' development priorities. For WADR, Nadede Tete, Accra.
Now to electoral matters in Benin. Preparations are intensifying ahead of the April 12 presidential election. The National Agency for the Identification of Persons, ANIP, has finalized the voter registration update process, a key step for completing the official electoral roll. Final verification operations were carried out at the agency's headquarters in Agbolonganda, southern Benin, where officials carefully reviewed the collected data. Veronique Njai reports.
The list identifying citizens of voting age will be submitted to the National Autonomous Electoral Commission, SENA, within the deadline set by the Electoral Code. These documents, which contain information about eligible voters for the presidential elections, underwent several levels of verification before being sealed to ensure their integrity. This process was conducted in collaboration with representatives from SENA, who were responsible for overseeing the reliability of the data. Authorities say as part of the verification process, each list underwent an electoral clearance, attesting to its review and integration into the national system. After the meticulous checks, the documents were sorted by district and prepared for secure transport to Sena, where they will serve as the foundation for organizing the election. Aristide Guy Ajanaku, Director General of the National Identification Agency, emphasized the accuracy of this process and the implementation of quality control mechanisms to prevent errors that could compromise the reliability of the electoral register. According to the agency, this step marks the culmination of the preparatory work on the electoral list and allows the next phases of the election process to commence.
Veronique Njai reporting there. Africa is estimated to lose between 50 and 88 billion US dollars every year to illicit financial flows. This figure was announced by the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, GIABA, at a two-day training for journalists in Senegal. The agency says tackling the challenge requires a collective effort to ensure the continent's sustainable development. As Christopher Aticha reports, the seminar focused on enhancing media professional skills to effectively report issues related to money laundering and terrorist financing across the sub-region.
The two-day National Awareness Seminar comes at a time when Senegal has been removed from GIABA's grey list, following renewed efforts to strengthen its fight against money laundering and terrorist financing. Participants were also encouraged to adopt investigative and fact-checking techniques to enhance reporting and drive public awareness on the issue. Speaking on behalf of the Director General of GIABA, the Information Manager and Acting Principal Officer, Timothy Melaye, expressed concern over the scale of illicit financial flows across the continent.
We've seen staggering figures of funds that is taken out of the region, particularly from the Thabo Mbeki Committee reports that look at illicit financial flow in Africa. This staggering figure that we're calling an increase from 50 billion to about 88 billion approximately taken out of the region, this have great negative consequences on the development of Africa. Imagine investing $88 billion annually in health, in education, in infrastructure, power in our region. What impact it will make.
Amid ongoing security challenges in the Sahel, particularly within countries of the Alliance of the Sahel States, Mr. Malaye reaffirmed GIABA's commitment to supporting member states in addressing terrorism financing despite evolving regional dynamics.
For security-related issues and technical-related issues, consideration be given. And therefore, there is still bilateral relationship and multilateral relationship with those countries, particularly in the areas of controlling borders, areas of AML-CFT-related issues, which is anti-money laundering and the combating of the financing of terrorism. Because of that, GIABA is open and to countries to remain members of GIABA, particularly for security purposes. And that is why the AES countries have applied to remain members of GIABA.
At the end of the seminar, GIABA says it plans to establish a network of journalists specializing in reporting on economic and financial crimes as part of efforts to promote transparency and support sustainable development across the region.
Christopher Aticho filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's turn to Guinea, where a legal case involving former Prime Minister Ibrahima Kassori Fofana is topping headlines. Fofana is being prosecuted for several alleged acts of corruption linked to his time in office during former President Alpha Conde's regime. On Monday, March 30th, 2026, the former Prime Minister was questioned at the Clinique Pasteur, where he's currently hospitalized. The hearing was conducted by the Court for the Repression of Economic and Financial Crime, CRIF, in the absence of Special Prosecutor Ali Toure. Imo Edet completes the story.
The interrogation of former Guinean Prime Minister Ibrahima Kassori Fofana took place in his hospital room at the Pasteur Clinic. It was conducted by Magistrate Lansana Chez, who is a member of the Appeals Chamber of the CRIF. He was assisted by Court Clerk Abubakar Fanta Jane. According to Almani Samori Traore, one of the lawyers for the former Prime Minister, he was once again questioned on the merits of the corruption case against him during his tenure. Ibrahima Kasuri Fofana, who is recovering from illness, answered questions from the magistrate, the civil party and his lawyers. After several minutes of questions and answers, the hearing was adjourned. The former Prime Minister will be heard again on Thursday, April 2, 2026. Recall Ibrahima Kasuri Fofana was released on March 5 for health reasons after spending nearly 2 years in pre-trial detention. He is being prosecuted for alleged embezzlement of public funds, amounting to approximately 15 billion Guinean francs, as well as for illicit enrichment and money laundering.
Chiano Alpha Ibrahima Baude filed that report, which was voiced by Imo Edit. Still on legal matters, we head to the Gambia, where developments have emerged in a trending case involving Usainu Bojong and his sister, Ami Bojong. The state prosecutor has filed a motion to revoke their bail just 1 day after the High Court acquitted and discharged them of murder and terrorism charges. On Monday, March 30th, Justice Ibrima Jaite ruled that the prosecution had failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. This case relates to a fatal shooting on September 12, 2023, which resulted in the deaths of 2 officers from the Police Intervention Unit. WADR's Sandonal Mendy reports.
Usainu Bojang and his sister, Ami Bojang, who were briefly released after being acquitted, are now back in custody at Mile 2 Central Prison as the High Court reviews the state's application. The state is requesting that the court stay the bail order, imposed stricter conditions, or keep the accused in custody until the appeal is heard. Meanwhile, citizens have been reacting to their rearrest.
They have no powers to overturn court verdict.
To me, it is a test of justice system's integrity.
In his ruling, Justice Ibrahim Jaite pointed out inconsistencies in the identification evidence, the absence of forensic links, and the presence of credible alibi. He concluded that the prosecution had failed to meet the standard of proof beyond reasonable doubt. Barely 24 hours after the judgment, the state filed a notice of appeal along with a motion seeking to revoke the bail. As the situation unfolds, human rights groups and civil society organizations are also calling on the government to release the 2 individuals involved. Madi Jobate, a human rights activist, is among those demanding their release.
The state itself, which is supposed to respect the court, they can flout it, and when they are supposed to protect your rights, they can trample upon your rights with impunity.
Through counsel Sisawo Cham, the prosecutors argue that the nature of the charges presents a significant flight risk, justifying stricter measures. In its affidavit, the state further alleges that Usainu Bojang previously evaded justice by fleeing to Jululum in Senegal shortly after the incident, with reported assistance from Ami Bojang. The motion, filed in the absence of the respondents, is now before the High Court for consideration. For Newslink on East Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, in Cote d'Ivoire, the special prosecutor is seeking heavy prison sentences for those accused of carrying out a deadly terrorist attack in the town of Kafolo. The attack, which occurred in 2020 at a military checkpoint, left 14 people dead. A total of 45 defendants are currently on trial in connection with the incident. Usman Umar tells us more.
During his closing arguments on Monday, the prosecutor requested life imprisonment for 5 of the 45 defendants. They are all on trial for their role in the 2020 attack on a military checkpoint in the town of Kafolo. The defendants are being tried for terrorism. The public prosecutor, however, divided the defendants into 3 groups. First, 14 defendants who, according to him, found themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. They are primarily the parents of suspected terrorists who are on the run, as the prosecutor is requesting their acquittal. Meanwhile, the prosecutor also identified 5 direct perpetrators of the Kafolo attack and requested life imprisonment for them. He further argued that they were part of a 30-person commando unit that attacked the Kafolo checkpoint. Finally, the prosecutor requested 20-year prison sentences for 26 other people. They are accused of providing logistical support or shelter and information to the perpetrators of the Kafolo attack. The floor is now open to the defense lawyers for their closing arguments on April 20, 2026. However, they announced that they are preparing a strategy to dismantle the prosecutors' arguments. The civil parties are demanding the payment of 10 billion CFA francs from all the accused who are found guilty.
That report was filed by Marcel Ariston-Blay and presented by Usman Omar. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Zimbabwe's President Mnangagwa arrives in Ghana for a 3-day state visit to strengthen trade and diplomatic cooperation. Citizens and civil society in the Gambia react as authorities rearrest acquitted murder suspects. Benin finalizes voter registration update for completion of electoral list ahead of April 12 presidential polls. And anti-money laundering agency GIABA says Africa loses over $50 billion annually to illicit financial flows. Coming up, we have press review, guest interview, and sports. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Nigeria's defense headquarters says it is confident of defeating terrorism through strengthened collaboration with the United States. It notes that efforts are intensifying to tackle evolving security threats within the country. While presenting quarterly updates on Tuesday, the Director of Defense Media Operations announced some achievements from recent military engagements against insurgency. WADR's Yechenu Sasetu reports.
The defense headquarters says it is taking strategic steps towards strengthening Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts. According to the Director of Defense Media Operations, Michael Onoja, measures have been designed to boost intelligence gathering, improve training, and enhance overall operational effectiveness of the armed forces.
Operations during the quarter were bolstered by aerial reconnaissance, air interdiction missions, and close air support, which targeted insurgent strongholds in remote and border regions.
The military also reveals that there are ongoing efforts to dismantle terrorist networks and restore stability in affected regions.
Troops during the quarter neutralized several terrorist leaders and scores of fighters, arrested 274 suspects, rescued 168 kidnapped victims, and facilitated the surrender of 90 insurgents and their families.
Authorities maintain that all interventions are guided by Nigeria's national interest and aimed at delivering long-term security outcomes. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
We remain in Nigeria, where analysts are responding to the resignation of Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tuga. Tuga is stepping down from his position to run for the governorship of Bauchi State. However, his departure comes at a critical time as Nigeria enhances its diplomatic engagements with Western countries, including the United States, France, the UK, and Turkey, all of whom have pledged military intelligence and other support to combat rising insecurity in the country. Concerns are mounting about Nigeria's ability to pursue urgent national security diplomacy without outgoing foreign minister who was leading these efforts. Please stay with us because Ugochukwu Bamidele, a public affairs analyst, will join us later to provide an analysis regarding the implication of Tuga's resignation on Nigeria's security engagements with foreign partners. Regarding health matters, the Liberian government has received a major boost in improving maternal and newborn healthcare services. On Tuesday, March 31st, the World Health Organization, WHO, presented 2 state-of-the-art ambulances along with medical supplies valued at approximately $600,000 to the Liberian Ministry of Health. The ambulances, described as mobile intensive care units, ICUs, are equipped to serve both as emergency transport vehicles and on-the-spot treatment centers. Medical experts say the donation will enhance rapid response efforts in the health sector. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
The donation includes essential life-saving equipment such as infant ventilators and incubators, critical for managing health risk, maternal and newborn cases. Speaking during the handover ceremony, World Health Organization country representative Dr. Olusayo Olu assured that the organization will provide logistical support, transportation, and specialized training for healthcare workers. These supports are to ensure the effective use and maintenance of the ambulances and accompanying medical equipment.
The ambulances are fully equipped to serve multiple purposes. They can be used as mobile ICUs, they can be used as mobile clinics, and they can also be used as general purpose vehicle to transport sick patients, from one point to the other. The medical supplies and equipment include critical life-saving equipment such as infant ventilators, neonatal incubators, and resuscitation equipment, which we believe will contribute to maternal and newborn care in the country.
Receiving the donation on behalf of the government, Liberia's Minister of Health, Dr. Luis Ekpoto, expresses appreciation to the World Health Organization for the timely intervention.
Those ambulances, they are medically fitted ambulances that can be used as mobile clinics. And sometimes we have our patients that we need to resuscitate. So those ambulances will be sent at the central EMS at JFK, where we can use it in the Monrovia and Monserrate area.
The medical donation comes days after the Liberian Ministry of Health and its development partners launched a 365-day plan to end maternal and newborn deaths across the country. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's return to Banjul to join San Donald Mendy for today's press review.
We start in today's review with the Standard newspaper, which says protesters demand release of Ousainou Bojang as state seeks stay of execution. Yesterday evening at Westfield in Kanafing municipality, Gambians against looted assets took to the street to protest against the arrest of Ousainou Bojang and his sister, who were briefly released. Ousainou Bojang was accused of killing 2 police officers on September 2023. Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education bans graduation ceremonies at nursery, lower basic schools. First Lady visit Gambian Embassy in Washington. Let us now turn to the Point newspaper, which is reporting that First Bank signs MOU with Accountant General Department to promote financial compliance. Barrow launches 32-kilometer lifeline road in the Central River region, connecting 52 communities. This project is part of the government development agenda as Barrow continues his nationwide effort to construct 204.7 kilometers of feeder roads aimed at improving rural access to markets and essential services. Let us now turn our attention to Forea, which is our last stop. Majority Leader and Souaibou Touré engage in heated Assembly State of Nation address debate. Gambia is peaceful, Fonyi is not. 2 lawmakers accuse government of ignoring Selin's crisis in Fonyi. And that does it for this edition of Press Review. Back to you in the studios.
And that was San Donald Mendy from Banjul reviewing some of the local dailies in the Gambia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Ugochukwu Bamidele, a public affairs analyst from Nigeria. He provides his analysis on the possible implications of Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tuga's resignation. Tuga is stepping down from his position to run for the governorship of Bauchi State. His departure, however, comes at a critical time as Nigeria is enhancing its diplomatic engagements with Western countries. Here is Bamidele's analysis.
It's well within the minister's rights to aspire. It's just like any other Nigerian. It's enshrined in the Constitution the right to vote and to be voted for. And so, he's picked to throw his heart in the race, which means that he has to resign. So yes, but then looking at the many fronts of engagement that the Foreign Affairs Ministry has got at the moment, you just mentioned one part, which is international relations as it concerns, the war against insurgency in Nigeria, tackling insecurity, bilateral relations with the U.S. and some other countries supporting the fight against insurgency in Nigeria. There's also the part of new ambassadors who just got sent out and who are still yet to find their footing, who are yet to be accepted in the countries where they've been sent to. There's also that diplomacy to play, and the minister is supposed to be in front of that. But I'll tell you what I believe. Government is a continuum. You come, you go. The most important thing for me, in my opinion, is that a square peg, someone who understands truly where the world is at and the dynamics at play at the moment in the world, and who would understand Nigeria's position and be able to further Nigeria's position and push for Nigeria's agenda in the face of everything that's playing out, because there's many things happening at the moment.
Given the fact that Yusuf Tuga was at the head of these engagements and at a point when these foreign countries or Western countries are showing interest, does his exit expose any structural weaknesses in the country's diplomatic engagements process?
If it exposes weaknesses, straight to the point, it is what it is. It's time Mr. President has a chance now to put a stronger foot forward. You don't go to diplomatic conversations shaky. You go with information, you go with knowledge, you go with what you're trading, because that's basically what happens when you talk international diplomacy. What are you trading in exchange for what? So someone who puts Nigeria's interest, it's time to have a strong foot forward. Someone who has earned some respect. And so Mr. President has a chance now. Yusuf Tuga, he wasn't so bad at his job. He might not have been exceptionally good as, we've had better foreign affairs ministers, but he was good at what he was doing. He was getting some results. And so the best way, just like football, if you had a fantastic player on the pitch and for some reasons you have to stretch him off the pitch, you put somebody better if you want to continue to get the results. So it's time to put a stronger foot forward, somebody better than Yusuf Tuga to go in there and finish up or tidy up, or continue from where Yusuf Tuga stopped.
Wouldn't there be a time for the next person taking over to adjust on minding the urgency of the current security crisis in the country?
Well, that's why you have handover notes again, right? That's why you don't have a one-man team. Yes, you had the minister who is an appointee of government, but you have career diplomats who work in that ministry, who understand, who are the administrative room of that ministry. And so whoever is coming on board would only need to be briefed, would only need to go through the notes, understand where we are at the moment, and hit the ground running again. I would emphasize that's why Mr. President must pick the right person.
In the absence of a substantive replacement or during a transitional period, what immediate risks could Nigeria face in coordinating intelligence, assessing military aid, or sustaining joint operation against insurgent groups?
The only risks that I see is whatever conversations that the Office of Minister spearheads with a vacuum right now, which I doubt would stay for long, because Mr. President also understands how important and strategic the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to achieving the goals that he wants at the moment. It's just going to lag a bit. It's because without the minister, there are some things that cannot happen. There are protocols that cannot move forward. And so I'm hoping that Mr. President doesn't even allow that linger.
Some sports stories before we let you go. Senegal defeated Gambia 3-1 in a friendly, showing strong form ahead of upcoming competitions. And Côte d'Ivoire beat Scotland 1-0, continuing their impressive run as they build momentum toward the World Cup. We'll have more sports stories for you in subsequent editions. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio. My name is Deborah Amuo. Thank you so much for listening. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM, Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.